wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Well, today, guys, we're going to be taking a look at the War for Cybertron Seige Hound. And I gotta say that they are definitely picking it up with the type of box art that we're getting nowadays. I love that artwork. I love kind of the gritty, worn look that the box is having, because that's the whole thing about these guys, is they're supposed to have the battle damaged, worn look. Then we're getting some pretty decent kind of sick art here on the box. I love that. They're just stepping it up. So the back maybe is a little lackluster. Anyway, at least most of the box looks good. And I guess War for Cybertron. See, this makes me think of the video game. But now they've like revived this title, and Siege is like the first part of this War for Cybertron trilogy, now that we into the Prime trilogy. Anyway, it's a vicious cycle. So, let's go ahead and look at this guy out of his packaging. Okay, so here we are looking at Hound in his vehicle mode. And I gotta say, the thing about this line is that they're supposed to be Cybertronian versions of what their eventual Earth alt modes would be. And I gotta say, for the most part, Hound maybe here or there just very sparingly has little pieces that make it look like that. But moreover, to me, it actually looks like just a really high-tech Earth Jeep. So I'm not knocking it. I love that they kept him as a open-top Jeep. And I don't even mind this more kind of upgraded windshield. That's kind of a unique little feature too. Now, as far as where his weapons are placed, that is where the directions say they go. If you want to make him look more like his G1 cartoon appearance, basically you just take the rifle instead of the rocket launcher and you just put it there, and he usually kind of had it pointed at an angle like this, and you can give him basically that look. Let's do a quick size comparison. And I don't know what it is. Sideswipe on the camera, he looks much bigger, because looking at in person, considering how short Jeeps are, and it actually scales quite well with this version of Sideswipe. Alrighty, well, other than that, let's go ahead and not waste any more time. I want to show you what he looks like in his awesome robot mode. And I gotta tell you guys, the one thing that I'm so stoked about is how perfectly they nailed his robot mode. And it's not exact, but it's good enough. I dig whenever they get the head right. You can see the head sculpt right there, especially with the painted blue eyes. That's perfect for Hound. One of the key features about this figure, with all the 5mm peg holes, is kind of the new gimmick of the line, is how you can armor them up in like a million different ways, and especially with like the Battle Masters. But for Hound specifically, he comes with 3 different things. He comes with his shoulder cannon, his rifle, and what can serve as kind of like a drum over here. You can apply that drum to either side of the gun to kind of give it like a Cybertronian Tommy gun, but you cannot plug it into the bottom. So it's either on one side of the gun or the other, or if you wanted to, you could actually plug it in right here on the back of the gun if you wanted to have this have a little bit more of a clean look, which, you know what, either way, I like it, I really do. And speaking of firepower options, if you guys can see, I don't know if it's picking up that well on the camera, but down here, and especially on his kneecaps, there's silver paint. The other part of aesthetic of this line is that they're supposed to have areas of their body that look like they've been scraped and worn and battle damaged and all that stuff. And especially here is where it shines the most, because if you look at the rest of his robot mode, it's pristine and clean. But speaking of battle damage, this kind of matches what you would see on the side swipe from this line, because it looks like he has damage on just the lower half of his legs as well. But if we're speaking of side swipe, let's go ahead and let's bring in this version of side swipe that we saw earlier, and for fun we'll just go ahead and bring in his brother. So you can see that for this line, While it may have worked well in vehicle mode, obviously in robot mode, Hound should actually at least be their height, if not bigger. But for right now, this is what we got. Without a further ado, guys, that has been the review of the War for Cybertron Seige Hound. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.